Hey everybody, this is John from Purple Sorcerer Games, and this is a very quick introduction video about version 1.8 of the Crawler's Companion. I will be creating individual videos for most of the new features, but I haven't gotten around to it, so this little quick start video of the most important new things we'll have to do. The first thing you'll notice when you come into the new version of the Crawler's Companion, if you launch the crawler holding it in landscape format, then it comes up in this dual screen format. On the left hand side you have the dice rolling screen and whatever screen you choose, and on the right hand side you can have additional screens. So for example, you could have the dice roller on the left and the batch roller on the right, or the battle screen on the right, or the critical fumbles, any screen you like. The one thing that it isn't represented on the right hand side is the dice rolling screen. That will always be on the right hand side. The default view on the right hand side is the log screen, and we will get to that in just a minute. If you want to launch the crawler in the regular portrait view, because the dual screen mode is primarily designed for larger tablets, then just close down the crawler, hold it in portrait format like normal, and restart the crawler, and it will come up in the single screen mode. The second big new feature in this new version of the crawler is dice roll sharing and messaging between instances of the crawler. You'll notice on the left-hand side of the screen that there are the new icons across the top of the screen, and those represent the features of being able to share your dice rolls. If I was to tap on the icon, the little broadcasting icon just next to the option icon, it will now say, it says logging unavailable because you're in the published mode. And what that means is that if we were to go inside the options, inside the options screen, you'll notice that there is now a box for campaign and now for your player name. The campaign is the name that you'll use, that you'll share between everyone in your individual campaign to be able to share roles to everybody within that group. The crawler comes by default with everybody set to publish, and you don't want to see everyone's roles. And so you'll need to change this to whatever your campaign name is. Now, we'll be discussing a little bit later about choosing campaign names, but for now, I have a sample campaign, not called Junie, called Johnny, that not called Jami, called Johnny, that we'll switch into. And now when I click OK, when we go back inside, now we see there's been some major changes. First, across the top, you see a couple of the icons have changed, gone from gray to orange, and that means that they're lit and they're active. You'll also notice in the top middle part of the left-hand screen, there it shows some rolls, and then the log on the right-hand side is filled with rolls. When you roll a die inside the Crawler's Companion, then you'll notice I've rolled the die at 23, and now you'll see across the top and also on the log on the right hand side, it shows the name of the person who rolled and then their result. That happens when the icon just to the left of the options icon, whenever that icon is lit, then you are sharing rolls with the rest of the people in your group. Now, the icon near the question mark help icon on the right hand side, the L, that shows or hides the log on the left-hand screen. So if you're in single screen mode, then that would turn it off completely or bring it back. Now, the advantage of having dual screen mode is that you can always have this log open on the right-hand side, and then not having it taking up a bunch of room on the left-hand screen, and so you can turn that off. If you are in single screen mode though, and it's turned on, you can also click the plus icon next to it, and it will expand the list of results. So if you, for example, had missed someone's roll and you wanted to go back and be able to see during a combat with a flurry of rolls, then you can expand that screen to be able to see it. You can also, by swiping up and down or using your scroll wheel on the desktop, you can scroll inside that list of dice rolls. And the little M icon next to the broadcast icon is what you use to be able to broadcast a message. You're able to fill in this drop-down list with names from your campaign so you don't have to type them in every time. But for now, and I'll explain how that works later, but if I click on the everyone and then type in the message, hey, everyone, and then I send the message, then you'll see across the top, now this message has been sent. So you can send to the whole group if you're like the judge or one of the players, or you can send to an individual player if you like. You just choose it from the list, and it will send out the message. That's the basic functionality of the dice sharing. And inside the battle screen, if you go, there is now a campaign button across the top. Now, I've completely changed the way that all of these online data tools for managing combats work. Previously, you had to create an account on my site, and everything was saved in a database, and there were security issues with that. So I just got rid of that. It's replaced with a much simpler system now that just you create the files, they get saved in a folder on my server. Just the most important thing is to remember the name of your campaign and to make it unique so that you can always be hitting the right data. But those online tools now are also mirrored inside the Crawler's Companion. So we have the Encounters tab, the Parties tab, the Players tab. Those are all within the crawler. So now you don't even have to go out to the web to make those changes. Now, for many of us, it's like if you're working on a small phone, it's still going to be better to be able to for being able to enter information and things like that, to do it on your computer. And so that still, for a lot of people, is going to be the preferred way. But for others, if you have a large tablet with a keyboard attached, then it's perfectly fine for you to be able just to do that stuff from within the crawler itself. Now, that being said, the help that you find on the campaign data on the Purple Sorcerer Games website is very, very extensive, and it will explain everything. And until I create the new videos talking about how the new data features work, that's probably the best bet for you, is to click on the top right of that screen, that online help. If you click on that, it will take you to the data tools on the site, and it will also provide you with much more help about what you want to do, best practices, suggestions for how to go about it. And so that's really what you're going to want to do when you're first learning how to do it. But then once you get really proficient with being able to use these tools, then you can just make your quick changes inside the Crawler's Companion, and you're good to go to manage your combats inside the crawler. From another big change from within the dice rolling screen, if you double tap on a die, and I'm going to double tap on the die 8, or you right-click on the desktop, it brings up a roll modifier dialog box. And in here now you can create, say you wanted to roll 2 die 8 plus 2. Now we click OK. And now when I roll that die 8, it'll roll the die 8 inside the die like normal, but underneath it now you see there's a little box with your modified roll. One important thing to keep in mind is the roll that is broadcast to your fellow players is the modified roll, because it's assuming if you've gone through and you've set this is what you want to see. If you want to change that back, you can just double tap, click reset. It'll set it back to no modifier. And now when I roll the die 8, now it's the die 8 that is sent to everyone. One thing to keep in mind as well is that let's go back and we'll set a modifier here. If you are having a locked die to the die 20, the locked dies will not do the multiplier, because that's assuming in most cases inside Dungeon Crawl Classics the locked die is used for mighty deeds and things like that, and it'll just roll the base die. But then if you roll the die by itself, then the die multiple will show up. If we go back inside the options, you'll see now there's a whole bunch of new dice colors, which is kind of cool, because one advantage of the dice colors is, like right now I'm that kind of orangey, browny gold color. Say if I was to click on purple and change it, in addition to changing the color of the die, when I roll now, wow, just getting special rolls all around. If you look across the top, you also have the die, the color of the name is now in a purplish shade. And so if everyone in your group has a broadly different dice color, because you're not going to be able to really tell much of a difference between a blue and a purple, but if someone is like a bluish color, someone's a yellow color, someone's a gray color, then it's just one more thing to be able to distinguish between different players in your group when they're rolled. And another little note here, we notice we had that locked die roll. When it does the locked die roll, it does the little asterisk next to the name before it adds it to the log for you to know that that's a locked die roll. If we go back into the help screen, you'll notice that you can also hide your own die rolls inside the log. You can turn off those different colors so everybody shows up in white. And also, if you're never going to be using the broadcasting features, like you don't have a group you're playing with, then you can just turn on or turn off broadcasting logging at launch. So if you turn that off, then it's going to come up in a default turned off state, and then you won't have to turn it off every time you launch the Crawler's Companion. One final thing inside the options screen is this broadcast spell fumbles critical results. Normally, if you were to roll let's go to a spell thing, we were to roll Charm Person, the result of that spell is obviously huge, and you're not going to be wanting to send that information in the little log screen built into the dice screen on your page. But so I've added a thing inside. There's a new button inside the tools section called Notes. And in this section, you can add individual notes for keeping track of campaign stuff. But there's also a thing called Campaign Share. And if you click on that, you'll notice I turned on the feature of the dice roll sharing of the broadcasting, like spell results and stuff. And so now the result of that spell has been put into this campaign share box. And so everybody that has this notes goes to the notes tab inside their crawler will be able to see these larger blocks of text. If you were to shut down the crawler and restart the crawler, it wipes all this data away. This is just a live stream for sending large amounts of data. And one place where that becomes really useful is if you were to go into the generators and say you were a judge and you wanted your players to roll up their text characters right from within the crawler. If they click on and they roll up a character, now when you click on copy share, it automatically shares that information to the notes section. So that's a neat new feature inside the updated version of the Crawler's Companion. Inside the Spells tab, you now have the ability where if you click on this little N button on the top left, you can now name your casters. So if you were to say you want your first caster to be called John Blix, and now I click OK, it adds that name to the name of the spellcaster. That was a request made a long time ago, so I finally added it. There are a number of other little updates inside the program, but for now, this will get you started. I will be at some point creating more in-depth videos for all the new features, but hopefully this will get you started. I hope you like the new version of the Crawler's Companion. It's been a long time coming, and it's been a pretty good investment in time getting it put together, and so I hope folks find value in the new features. Take care.